Good afternoon, everybody. This is Jason, and I'm here with you to do another uh, one of my interviews with another talented runner. Um, this guy here kind of broke upon the scene out of nowhere last winter in a race that it was funny. It was supposed to be a showdown between Zach Bitter and Taggart Van Etten, two super quick guys that were looking to break all sorts of records against each other. And then Phil Young, and beat them both. so, and Phil is very talented. So thank you for joining me, Phil. I appreciate you being
Sure.
here.
So, yeah, thanks for having me.
So, I guess before we get to the whole Tunnel Hill story, which is fantastic all in itself, give me a little bit of background on kind of your running story. Kind of where did it all begin? And even looking at your results, I mean, you kind of started out successful from the beginning. So, kind of talk about that a little bit, kind of, how you broke upon this, started running and from the gate just started off doing very well. So.
Sure. I started to enjoy running as probably a high school kid. Younger than that, I kind of watched my parents do it and engaged in, some local 5Ks and this and that. But high school, honestly, I discovered cross country. I didn't know it was a thing. I'd never heard those two words used together before. So started running longer distances, and I discovered even like in track and field that like 2 miles wasn't far enough. Like the longer the better for me. I'm not very powerful, not explosive. 6'4", and I can't touch the basketball rim, so longer and slower was better. I was good enough in high school that I thought I'd be running in college. Went to the University of Iowa, did not make a team there, and that kind of started my quest to like find out where my little niche was, because previously it had been as part of a team and competing in the formal events of 5K and track stuff. So started running a lot of road races. Ran my first marathon my junior year in college. That kind of whet my appetite for, hey, I think I can do this better. You run your first one, you think immediately like, I could take a half an hour off of that if I just fixed this and that. So yeah, marathons. I mean, I probably had almost 10 years of just running road marathons before I jumped onto the trail or into anything over 26 in a meaningful way. Ran my first 50K as a product of circumstance. I lost my job and was signed up for Chicago. Couldn't really afford a weekend like that. So I entered a 50K just an hour or two away from home, and a friend of mine has a running store and produced the race. And so he let me sneak into the race, and I was in marathon shape. I had a great day on the trails. I won the race. I took home a little money. So it was like this really positive experience, right? Like it's my first time doing a thing like that. Instead of costing me a bunch of money, I made a little bit, and winning any race is a ton of fun. So that was me like, okay, I think this might be a thing, yeah. And then it was just kind of the same slow climb that a lot of folks are making. It's 50K, and then you do it again, and then you think, okay, well now what? 50 miles, and then 100K, and then 100 mile, and that is kind of the process. And that all kind of happened inside of maybe 5 or 6 years from first 50K to first 100 mile.
So your marathons were they? I'm taking your marathon time had to be pretty stout. Just looking at what your your first 50K was. I mean, so you were pretty much torching the marathons too, weren't you?
Yeah, I got down to I mean, it's all pretty relative, but I got down to 229. That was the one that made me think, and it was ugly. It was like an ugly 229, a big positive split. I was probably in shape for more like 226. But I still thought, oh boy, I'm still, I think I was in my 20s, late 20s, and I thought maybe Olympic trials, maybe that's my Super Bowl. Maybe that's that'd be my really high reaching goal, like if I really buckled down. Somewhere in between there and that timeline, I'd have to really look back at things. But did an Ironman in 2013. My PR marathon, that must have been, it was a year on either side of that, probably. But that was my first time, like really, the cool thing about the ultra marathon is you can rally, you can get into a really dark spot and then you can come back. And so I'd never, in the marathon, like once you're in trouble, it's over. At least for me, that's been my experience. And so Ironman was cool because I, as a runner, I really had to press into those other disciplines. I felt like I almost died on the swim. It was the worst thing ever. And then I rode my bike really well, and this is in Madison. And boy, on the run, like I was hammering the run. I had this goal of like, I'm going to have the fastest run split. I'm going to beat all the pros, on the run. And I must have gone through the half in like, I don't know, 125, which back in 2013, nobody did that. Now Ironman times are crazy. But I walked, I got halfway through that thing and the lights just shut off. I mean, I was on a different planet. But I was able to kind of, maybe the last 10K, I drank a bunch of pop and ate a bunch of crap. And that was the first time that I realized like, wow, you can bounce back. So that was my first relevant experience with like suffering, like long suffering. So I'm grateful for that. But yeah, the marathon was fast, but it wasn't, it's not going to get any faster. I'll tell you that.
Did you feel like, it's interesting you saying that you felt like once you crashed in the marathon, you felt like it was a hard to come back from that.
Yeah.
And it was easier in the ultra. Do you think it is, and you correlate the distances are really not that much apart, right? We're talking 5 miles, but do you think that maybe in the marathon world, it was like that because of just the competitiveness and the intensity compared to what the not to take anything away from ultras, because right. That's a whole different type of intensity, but do you feel like that was kind of the case there?
Yeah, I think, part of it had to do with like, in the marathon, for someone who's competitive, I never towed the line in a marathon with like I hope I finish. I didn't, that wasn't my background. Coming into my first one, I knew I was going to finish, and it was like, I want to do it with this sort of time goal. So when the goals are time-based, I think you just interact with trouble differently. Because if you're trying to finish, which not the word just shouldn't have come out of my mouth. If you're trying to finish something, suffering is like, okay, like it got bad, but like I'm going to finish. So I have to fight through this thing in order to reach the goal. When you've got a time, mentally, once you've lost 2 minutes, like you failed, like you now your goals, you have to readjust your goals. You're not going to hit the mark. And so, yeah, the competitive nature of the marathon, I mean, it's definitely for me, once I ever fell off track, I was upset, I was kicking rocks and pouting and wondering, why do I do this and whatever. In ultra, I think, especially like at the level that I had run my first couple 50Ks, like even to have a dark spot, it's like I am in first place, like, or relative to the field, like I've been running really fast. And so when you rebound and finish and you realize like, hey, actually this end result is like this is pretty great. So yeah, it's a different thought process. Obviously the terrain, I mean, if you run something that's vertically challenging, or, switchbacks and all, when the trails get gnarly, like then it's like perceived effort is more the gauge than time. Yeah.
And I think that's interesting. And, I don't want to, I don't want to jump ahead, but it's interesting you mentioned that, because like, in your experience in Tunnel Hill, you ran that at like a blistering pace, and ended up, with the W there. You were going against two guys, and I know there was other people there, but I'm just, let's, focusing on Taggart and Zach, right? Because they were the two most outspoken guys that had a real goal in mind, a time goal in mind. And, and I think even in the ultra world, when you're shooting for a time goal and the wheels start falling off and you realize that things aren't going to go your way, you readjust. And I think sometimes when you readjust, it can, in at least in the ultra game, it can backfire, a little bit. And like I said, we'll get into that race here in a minute. But like it made me think about that, because like literally what you were just saying correlates perfectly into how Tunnel Hill played out.
Yeah.
And I think it's very, very interesting.
You're totally right. That's good.
So, you had a lot of success, and then with your 50K, and then you started bumping up your game. You decided you wanted to jump into the 50 miler, and you went into Hennepin, and the way Hennepin went, you came out with a win there. In your first 50-mile experience, did it go as smooth as that 50K experience?
No, man, my first 50 mile, I look back on it fondly. I was out in front. I got in trouble like way too early, like 28. And, I had ambitious goals. And so I was losing track of those. The time ones, those are falling away. I got passed shortly after the wheels fell off. So now right, like, and all these silly pressures, like I want to win, I want to break the course record, I want to win the money, I want to, I want to hit this time goal. And those are just like falling away, like gone. Now you're 31 miles in, and like, are you going to finish? Are you going to cry? Like, how's this going to go? And I remember just being faithful with like nutrition. And at that point, I had no idea what I was fueling like a marathoner. So it's like, I'll take another goop. I don't really know what to do. And so walking and running and pouting, and still in second place. But somewhere there's an aid station put on by 10 Junk Miles. I think that's those are the cats that I saw. And gosh, I got to remember this correctly. I asked these guys like how far back I was, and I had been having a really hard time for maybe 10 miles. And somebody said, gosh, I cannot remember. It's like Tunnel Hill has changed my perspective on what I can remember. Anyway, I started to like re-energize, and Hennepin is the straightest, it's straight. It's just a straight shot. The whole thing, I mean, it's not, but the trail, it goes on and on and on and on. It's flat and flat and flat. And I came around one of the only little turns. I mean, there must have been 4 turns in 50 miles. And after wondering if I'm going to finish, and I saw the gentleman who had passed me 2 hours ago, he's now having a rough time. And I saw him way up ahead of me, and I thought, no way, like there's no way this is going to get better. I've already lost, right? It's not, I've missed the mark on my goals, and I'm just trying to limp to the finish line. And I saw this guy, and honestly, very similar to the feeling that I had at Tunnel Hill. My body freaked out. I mean, I had the biggest adrenaline rush, like, oh my gosh, I'm not out of it. And I must have put, a nice big surge in and kind of passed this guy and asked him how he was doing, and he was having a rough time. But anyway, it was this big, like, I'm totally out. And then all of a sudden I'm not. And yeah, I stayed moving, ran the last, 5 or 6 miles with a little bit of renewed energy, and then ended up winning and like turning in an okay time. It was course record still. Like, I don't know how that stuff happened. It was pretty bizarre, but that, I guess that's the sport.
It really is. And like, I cannot remember the race, but it was a race that was like, it was a race put on by Aerovite, and it happened, I think it was last year. It had to be last year, because I don't think anything happened the year before that because of COVID. Sure. And there were 2 guys running, right? Well, there was one guy running, and he was way out in front, like way out in front. And the finish line was literally like within like a few hundred yards, right? All of a sudden, out of nowhere, the drone picks up this other guy coming in hot and passes the guy, literally, like, here's the finish line. He passes the guy like within like just, I mean, maybe not even like 50 feet from the finish line, and beats him. I mean, and it's just like, you just never know when that push is going to hit, right? And in your instance, the push happens at the end, which, let's face it, if it's going to happen, you want it to happen at the end. You don't want it to happen at the beginning, right? You want to save all the gas for the end when you can pull out, all the stops and grab the win there. And that's huge. So I guess, listening to what you're saying, when did you start focusing on nutrition and dialing in what good ultra running nutrition looks like?
Yeah, I think with each negative experience, like from a bonk perspective, each time I had something like that happen, makes you think about it. But I mean, all my changes were minor in training. Like, oh, maybe I'll do tailwind. Maybe I'll try to drink a little bit more, stuff like this, like not, maybe I'll introduce salt. So I'd done those sorts of things, but it really was, it was after Hennepin this year. It was a humid day. Taggart mopped the floor with me, but he had a bad day relative to his goals. I had a really rough time relative to what I was trying to do. And it happened really early for me. And I thought I was all over my nutrition. I thought I was drink and fuel. And apparently I wasn't. And I'm so glad that I learned that then, because I got back into conversation with Taggart in the weeks after the race, and just said, hey man, like we were just talking about what happened. And I mentioned, man, it must have been like 40 miles. I stopped and peed after feeling like all I had done was drank water the whole day. And like my pee was like dark. And I just thought, how has this occurred? I mean, I know it's humid, but I've just been throwing all of it down. And, but I was malnourished and dehydrated. And so that really made me think, okay, if something, I must not be doing enough. I'm big, I'm 180 pounds and I sweat a lot. Like, I'm always the sweatiest guy at the gym. And so maybe my rate of perspiration is just high. So I didn't get super scientific, but talking with Taggart and just talking about real food options and how frequently we're doing this and that. And so I spent probably 4 or 5 weeks, my last couple long efforts, really just testing the limits of how much can I put in here and not get a stomach ache. and not have to be on the toilet. And so it really was, I mean, I was eating, I'd go out for a 2-hour run and eat 4 peanut butter and jellies just to see if like, is 4 sandwiches in 2 hours too much? You know what? And that, you know, on paper, I would never do that. Like, oh, I've got 2 hours, I'd take 1 goo and I'd take it halfway. Yeah. So it wasn't until this fall. It wasn't until late this fall that I really took the time to measure some things out and ask for help and employ new strategies and guess and check and do that stuff.
It's, you know, and it's interesting. I don't know if you're familiar with Peter Mortimer, but Peter he's a West Coast runner. He just ran the Hurt 100. I just interviewed him a few days ago.
Sweet.
And he is a 200-mile guy, and he ran Tahoe, and he finished the Tahoe 200 in like 83 hours. And then like the next year or I can't remember what the months it is, but then he ran Bigfoot like the next year, and the Bigfoot 200, and he cut 24 hours off his time. And I was like, I'm looking at it and I was like, so you go from like, you know, a good effort at Tahoe, and then you roll in the Bigfoot and you come in second and you cut a full day off your time, you know, what gives? Because like, you know, you don't see huge jumps in effort like that. And so basically what he said was he dropped down to like a high protein, low carb diet. And that's what he does now. And he was talking about how much faster he's also a doctor too, so that makes all the difference. So he's like smart as hell. So you know, so like, you know, he understands the science behind proper eating. And he was talking about how he fuels with sugar and how he doesn't fuel with sugar. And he was talking about how just by changing his diet and moving to that high protein, drop into the low carb, kind of like a keto style, that it has completely changed his running. Obviously, it has, because the guy is, you know, he's dropping, you know, I mean, second place at Bigfoot, he was second place at Cocodona, and he just won the Hurt 100. So I think it's interesting how nutrition plays such a huge role in how well you do, right? And I mean, and then that's, you know, and I think that's a key piece, especially like for someone at your level, right? Because I'm not at your level. I'm in the back, you know, hanging out, chilling, right? And so, you know, for somebody who is going to be competing for the win, eating properly, fueling properly, putting the right stuff in absolutely makes all the difference. And I think, you know, obviously, you know, it paid off for you at Tunnel Hill. But, you know, looking at, you know, backing up a little bit, you ran Black Canyon. What made you decide to jump into Black Canyon?
Yeah, the fall before that, so 2020, like just after Thanksgiving, I got COVID, was quarantining like from my family in a small bedroom and feeling sorry for myself and feeling like crap and feeling like I couldn't stand up and, you know, take deep breaths and stuff. And so I was on ultra sign up. It's like every good story starts ultra sign up, and I'm like, what do? I need a goal. I need to do something. And I put myself on a couple waiting lists, and this was one of them. And I mean, I was 200 deep on this list. There was just like no way, right? There was no way I was going to get in. But then I told my wife, like, hey, I don't know if this happens, like, I'd really like to go do this thing. And I must have found out like Christmas Day or New Year's Day. I did not have much time. So I had like 6 or 7 weeks till Valentine's Day, and just had to turn it up fast. So, and it wasn't ideal, but I mean, I put good training in for the time that I had. It's not a mountainous deserty race is kind of hard to train for in Iowa when it's 0 degrees and there's ice everywhere and there's no mountains or cactuses, but I figured it out. But I wanted, I thought if I'm going to jump to 100, the next thing should be like a challenging 100K. Because flat 50 is way different than whatever the next thing is. Because those 50s that are flat, I mean, it still feels like I don't know, it's like a race for me. And so I needed to go out and grind a little bit, and that's what happened.
So relative to running the flat stuff, because it's a different type of race, right? And I think you dialed it in perfectly. The flat stuff, uses different muscles than, say, the mountainous stuff, right?
Yeah.
And so after doing Black Canyon, are you wanting to jump into the more mountain style races, or are you like, are you wanting to stick to mainly the flat fast stuff?
Yeah, I think flat and fast would be the short answer. I know if I'm just trying to optimize, I know myself, and I do not climb. Like I cannot like a hilly race course, even 10K. Like I'm going to underperform relative to the field. If comparing to if we were on something flat, my heart rate goes up, and I'm just not good at it. And so there's a side of me that wants to press into that and like get better at something I'm not good at. But right now, and it's silly, but I come off a tunnel hill and I'm just thinking like, this is so fun right now. Like where the sport's at is so fun. And I just know that 5 years from now, like, well, first of all, I'll be 40, but like there's going to be so many guys running fast. It just is. It's going to turn up really fast that, and it's not like the sport is brand new, but the flat and fast, like little niche, like, there's so many guys trying to run like an Olympic trials qualifier, but at some point, like, what is like, great, you ran 2:18 and you got to go to the Olympic trials and you got 73rd place, and then which is incredible. But then I think that type of guy goes, now what?
Right.
I'm 26. Now what? And to see like, dude, you could set a world record. You could, you might be able to get a sponsorship deal, but at the very least, you could be competitive at really fun events and travel the US or the world and like have a lot of fun running. It's gonna take off. So if I can be at the top for a little while up there with some of those guys, like I got to run a couple more flat, fast races.
Well, and I think, what's great about where you are located though, is like, if you wanted to jump into some tough stuff, I know that what Superior is north of you, right? And that's I know that Ryan Pluckelman from the Adventure Jogger loves Superior.
Yeah.
And talks very highly of that race and that course. But I think the flat and fast stuff, there aren't a ton of guys that really do that, right? I mean, Taggart was doing it. I think he's, he says he's stepping away from it to focus on the marathon thing. Who knows? I mean,
yeah.
I just got finished interviewing Corey Waldron, and we're going to try to get him down here to Tennessee to run some mountain stuff with us. And
sweet.
But he's like you. I think he enjoys being able to open it up and really compete at a high level, doing that. And it's just different, right? I mean, like, these mountainous tough courses, like like UTMB, for example, and Leadville, right, and Hard Rock. I mean, those courses just beat the hell out of you in a totally different way, right? I mean, it's just a totally different type of run and effort that you have to put forth to do that. And the flat and I think the fun thing about the flat and fast stuff is like it's you get these really explosive finishes like we got with you at you know with
Sure.
you at Tunnel Hill. So I guess let's fast forward and move to Tunnel Hill. So you entered into Tunnel Hill. You walked in knowing that it was going to be, a couple of really fast guys. There was Zach and Taggart. You'd already raced Taggart at Hennepin, and had that little showdown with him. And then you walk into Tunnel Hill where you have Zach Bitter, who is already the man, right? And is
Yeah.
super fast. I was there the year that he broke it.
Sweet.
I at the time I was brand new into doing the ultra running thing, and so this guy just kept flying by me, and I was like, I
Yeah.
kept seeing him, and I'm like, is he a race official? Like I couldn't figure. And then I was like,
Yeah.
after like the second time, I was like, he's got a bib on, and I was like, well, shit, this guy's like I
He's
don't even
doing
know
it.
what he's right. I don't even know what he's running right now, but it's not natural,
Yeah.
And so anyway, so you roll into Tunnel Hill, and break down how kind of all that went for you, like from start to finish. Did you have any fallouts like you did before, where you crashed early and then rebounded, or did the whole thing just run completely smooth?
Yeah. No, it wasn't all smooth. One of the great things. So Taggart had established with me that had kind of shared his race plan, and it was, I mean, real, probably within 5 seconds a mile, like real specific. Like I'm going to do this for probably 60 miles, and then I'm going to go wherever Zach's at. I'm going to go get him. And I kind of felt like I had these like real far off goals. Like, what if I have a day of days? Like, what if I'm perfect? I bet I could hang with Taggart for those first 60. Like, that's a really comfortable pace for me. 7, 10, like I feel that's the pace that I ascribe to, like, oh, I could do that all day, and then you races and it's like, well, no, that's world class. But that's the thing that I feel like I could do all day. And so a smart conservative race plan would have been like, no, man, like 7:30, 7:40s, like, don't go out and get in trouble. But I thought, if I've got a buddy and I know it's going to be steady and I'm not going to get carried away because we're just going to stick to a plan, that's actually a really relaxing place, both physically, the pace, but mentally, like, just lock in, like, and just have a fun day. And so that's what I decided to do. And we'd see, I mean, from a placement perspective, Zach was gone. And then, there were a couple other guys that were gone. Jacob Moss, like, chased after him. And so now it's like, we're in like 5th or 6th place. And I had to just not be concerned with that. And I'm so glad, not just because of the way that it turned out, but really, like, I never had more fun running than those first 40 miles. We had a ton of fun. It was just relaxed. Somebody peed, the other guy waited. If we were sharing food, and just like the day was getting more and more beautiful. So like you start with a coat and then it turned to short sleeves, and the trail, fall foliage was out. So it was great. So for 40 miles, it was just perfect. Real conservative, real steady. And then we caught up to Jacob, who was having a hard time at like 40. So then we sucked him in. So then it was the 3 of us. And just before 50 was the first time when I felt like the gravity of the day. Like I felt like, oh shoot, like Taggart must have got 5 steps on me on accident. And I was like, why didn't I respond? Why am I not right next to him? This feels kind of challenging. So that was the first time it started to feel hard. And then we went into aid where my wife Jackie was, and at the halfway, and it just hit me like a ton of bricks. I left the aid station crying. Taggart and Jacob were gone. like I could see them, but they had already taken off. And I was like, I told my babe, or I told Jack, I said, babe, I'm screwed. Like, I don't want to, like, this went from like so beautiful and wonderful to like, I am toast. And so, that was my head. And then shortly thereafter, my body started to fail. I had some, well, to fast forward, I'm on the bench right now. I haven't run in 6 weeks. And this is what happened is it started during this race, but yeah, around 51 or 52, I was having some really severe posterior tib shin pain. And like, it was pretty convenient, right? Like I want to quit now. Now my leg hurts, and boy, this is shaping up to be a DNF. And so, but the plan was, the pace plan with Taggart worked great. My food plan, I was on track the whole time. And the other plan that I'd put in place was like, if you get in trouble, you are walking for a 1/10 of a mile, and then you're running, and you got to finish the mile. And I committed to that. Like, you're going to get in trouble. It's 100 miles. And if it happens, that's what you're doing. And so it got bad. And so I was like, fine, I guess I'll, do the plan. And I did that for 10K. Saw my wife at 60. She knocked some sense into me. My shin really hurt. I switched shoes. Put a different insole in, like just addressed my foot as best I could. And I mean, I could talk for hours. There's a lot more to it, but I didn't walk again after 60. And I thought I was going to. I thought like by the time I get back to that aid station again, I'm gonna like get in the van and go home, because Jackie will be there again. And I just kind of kept eating and drinking, and stuff felt better. And then I got tiny little carrots, like, so I got back to whatever 65, and I'm like, I'm feeling okay. Give me my stuff. I'm gonna keep going. And then at 70, like, I passed Taggart, and he's not having a good day anymore. And while that sucked, and I was upset for him, like, it helped me put my day in perspective. Like, hey, remember, like, this is a long day and stuff goes wrong, and then it can go right again. And so you're fine, keep going. And so my confidence started to build. And by the time I got to 75, with one more out and back, I looked at the clock and thought, like, well, holy cow, like, I got 3 hours. I just got to run a 3-hour marathon, and like, or so. And like, this is crazy. Like, I'm going to have an awesome day.
Right.
Yeah. So, the last 24 or 25 were like, it was a business meeting. I mean, it was just, I just executed on the plan. I tried not to get carried away, even when I felt good. Like, when my energy was high, it was like I had to hold back. I was very content with, I mean, the whole goal was like, get third place. Like, I'm in third place. I would like to finish. I'd like to do it in 13 hours. Stay here, like, stay here, stay where you're at. And so I kept up on all my stuff. I passed Jacob in the dark. I have no idea when it happened. Somewhere between 84 and 88. And then it wasn't until it wasn't until there were 4 miles left to go when my wife ran up the trail from the finish and got to me. And it must have been 3 or 4 miles. And when I just thought, like, wow, we did it, it's great. So we were listening to music and jogging in, and I'm feeling good and running 7:30s, thinking, I guess I'm in second. This is wild. And so then the next, I didn't need to rebound from anything. I did that 4 hours ago when I was in the gutter. And so now I'm just having fun with no desire to be moving any faster than I was. It was going just fine. And nothing really hurt. Like, I'd been out there just for a whole day. And then we snuck up on Zach and Nicole in the woods. I still can't believe it when I replay it in my mind. It was less than a mile to go. And, we'd been passing individuals here and there because you got the 50 mile and you got the out and back nature, and there's people, and it's dark and you're seeing stuff, but like there had been people every couple minutes. And so we were just kind of approaching the next little group of people and saw that it was Zach, and had a really visceral, crazy adrenaline response, and told him, let's go. And then just flew by, and that was kind of how the last mile went. I felt like a kid who had like ding dong ditched somebody, or like, I don't know, I never stole anything, but stole something from somebody, and then was like running as fast as I could to not get in trouble, or for my parents couldn't find out or something. So just sprinting through the dark, like, please don't catch me, please don't catch me, please, please, please. But that's how it went.
I mean, listening to you, and I've not heard Zach's recap of the race at all. I know that, I read his this small little Instagram post or whatever that he made, where he's basically, talked about how, he just basically ran out of gas, for lack of a better word. And you basically refueled and brought home the win. I guess your nickname needs to be the closer, because you just close it out. It's like, you come in and you reel it in, and you just close it out. So you got the win there, and I'm sure like that had to be really special, because first off, I know you and Taggart are friends and whatnot. But being able to come out there, compete with him, and compete at a level to where, you actually exceeded his performance, and then to exceed the performance of Zach Bitter, who is, elite athlete, his accolades, is like a list like a mile long, right? Crazy. I mean, the guy's like a monster. I mean, just amazing. So, I mean, that had to be pretty special, though, right?
Yeah, I still don't feel like I deserved it. I don't know. When you're a kid and you want to be Michael Jordan, or you for me, like Ryan Sandberg was my guy. It's like, I'm going to play second base for the Cubs, just like Ryan Sandberg. And all those, like, for the most part, all those dreams are stupid. Like they, like everybody has them and nobody gets them, relative to the population. And I didn't. I guess I haven't been waiting my whole life for a moment like this. Like that's not what my life is about, and that's not where it's been. But to get the chance to get to experience that just for a day was super special. I mean, it was very, very cool. It was very humbling. It took a long time for me to like realize it's a race. Like, it's not a big deal, but like the gravity relative to this cute little niche of our ultra marathon stuff, like to realize what I did, it took a while for it to sink in. That sounds so cliche, but I don't know. I mean, Zach Bitter is kind of the pioneer, like for this type of race. Okay. He I'm here because of him, right. And it's not like I've been following along and reading books and listening to every, blog and podcast. Like I'm not, but I know that it's kind of the trail that he blazed or paved or whatever, that kind of got this fast 100-mile thing to get going. I mean, I think the first big cultural moment was like what he did at 6 days in the Dome. Like that caught everybody's attention. Like, what, 7-minute miles, like 100 of them, in a little zero drop thin racing flat. Like, this is before super shoes. like it was incredible, you know. And then Taggart does the treadmill thing, and you're like, what is like this is like reaching beyond what we thought were the human limits. You know, it's the 4-minute mile for our stupid little thing. And
Right.
so yeah, it was an incredible day. You know, having my wife there was super special, getting to kind of, she, you know, her getting to kind of parallel with me, like to get to share the highs and lows of the day. You know, I roll into an aid station. This is the place I'm in. This is my emotional state. This is how my body feels. And so to get to have had all those things happen, and have friends tracking at home, and then like just the way that it all kind of culminated and came together at the end. Yeah, it was crazy. I'd be lying if I told you like I'm not like craving it again. You know, like I and that's a sickness, but it's what drives a lot of, you know, athletes, and I'll be satisfied. Like if I don't get to have another day like that, that's okay. But I want to try, because it felt really good.
Well, and I think what it shows you is that, you know, even, you know, and you're right, you know, Zach is kind of like I don't even know a parallel to give him, right? I mean, but you're right, he is the pioneer. He's
Yeah.
the flat and fast guy that has basically done things that no one ever imagined,
Yep.
right? Like you said, 6 days in the dome is just, it's not even human. I mean, just crazy. And like you said, running in ultra zero drop, these little thin, you know,
Yeah.
shoes. I mean, it's crazy because I'm a big ultra guy myself, but I don't run anything in long distances in Escalantes or racer flats. You know, I'm in
Yeah.
the
And I think he was wearing like it's like the solstice or something. It was
It's a solstice. It was the solstice. Yep,
yeah.
yep, yep. And that one, I mean, it's nuts. I mean, and what's crazy is the guy still ain't done, right? He's kind of
Yeah.
like he's like the he's like the Tom Brady of
Yeah.
ultra flat running, right? I mean,
Getting better.
right. He just gets better, and he just still is able to win and compete at high levels against any and everybody, and
Yeah.
I think that's huge. So you alluded a little bit to the fact that you're injured. So, you know, looking ahead, what's kind of the what's kind of the next stuff you got looking to do?
Yeah. So I think the big, like the far off like race goal would be to find my way to Western States. I'd love that. That would be my Boston Marathon. You know, that would be like a really cool experience to get to go have. Whether or not I was competitive when I got there, I'd really like to be there. You know, I will run Tunnel Hill again, Lord willing, and I intend to go very fast. And excited to see kind of who else would show up. The shorter term, which is getting this I'm about to miss on this one and have to pull out, but Mad City 100K US championships. I really thought I'd have a great shot at being competitive there. And that 100K, it is fast. Guys, I mean, guys are running really fast. Like, I think relative to the gravity of the distance, what's happening with, I mean, Zach Bevan and the stuff he's done at 50 mile, like what could happen over 100K, like people running under 6-minute miles. I mean, it's nuts. But I thought that would be a really neat thing. If I accidentally made the world team, like that would have been really cool. But it would have been more about being in a nice field for a flatter long distance race again. I think I'm 1 week away from having to pull the plug. If I can't get on the Alter G and start in my foot to feel a little bit better, I don't think I'll rescind my entry, because there's a 50K and I've got plenty of time to to get ready for 30 miles. But likely the 100K will be off the calendar. And if the foot is still really bad, I'll just totally yank my entry out of there and really slow play. I have too much fun running. Like I cannot stomach the thought of like not being out there with my friends this spring and summer. I love it too much. And it's good for my brain and it's good for my family when my brain is good. So it's Tunnel Hill. Tunnel Hill is the thing that I think all the other goals will kind of support, because I want to go do it again. I want to go back. I want to run fast. I want to see some of those same guys, and want to fix a couple things that I feel like I could fix. And it's nice to have it's nice to understand what ambitious actually is. When you don't have a frame of reference for what your body can do over a certain distance, it's hard to goal set, and you want to be responsible, but you also want to be ambitious. And I'm like an ambitious goal guy. My wife's the other one. She's like, let's temper our expectations, so we're not disappointed. And there's a couple different ways to do that. And you and I talked about, alluding to me not being so fixed on a time or a place, it actually probably helped me rebound. But now that I know like what could be done, and then you see these guys, overseas running, 10 hours, 11 hours. It's just like, I want to try to go fast and see if I can train well and have a good day. So we'll be back in Vienna, Illinois.
So what other are you looking at any other possible Western States qualifiers besides Tunnel Hill?
Yeah, I would have. When I was in recovery mode, thinking that I was just banged up from running 100 miles and it would just be a couple weeks. I watched the whole lottery, thinking my one ticket, maybe I'll, maybe I'll get in. I was reaching out to, I was trying to throw my weight around with anybody that I knew who had an in. Talking to Goo, talking to Hoka, talking to Fleet Feet out in Sacramento, like who could get me into this race? And then I thought I ought to go back to Black Canyon, and that right away. Once I realized I couldn't run, that was out, and that would have been a stretch anyway. It's not my kind of course. It was a really fast build up. I'd have had the same amount of time I had last year, which wouldn't have worked. But yeah, other races where I could get tickets. I haven't been able to look ahead because I'm just so frustrated with my foot. I don't want to put anything else on the calendar. I think Hennepin actually has to probably have a shot, because I don't know that I'd run 200s in 5 or 6 weeks, but because the 100 would get me another ticket in there. But I'll likely be there again just because I love Michelle and we love that event. We support it here locally. And I don't know. I've looked around. I've got a list of events I'd like to go do, but we've got a lot going on. We got 3 small girls. We got a life to live around here. We got a business. I'm not quite at the spot where I can just fly around and go to all the races.
Well, most aren't. So
yeah.
It's one that is a qualifier that might be closer to your wheelhouse, but the timing is not good for it. Would be like something like the Yeti 100 in Damascus. I think over 100 miles, it has like, I don't know, a little bit less than 3,000 feet of gain.
That's awesome.
Which is not much,
right.
Because the first 18 miles you're running down the mountain, and it's basically like a small, like 500-600 foot gain up to the city called Abington, and then you run back to the top of the mountain. So all your gain is going up that mountain, and then you turn around and you go back down it again. So literally you could you could bank a ton of time, lose the time going up, and then
Go get it again.
go get it on the way down. And that's I think that you get a ticket there as well. I think if for competing in that. So that's another one, but unfortunately it's like at the end of September. And so
Right.
relative to Tunnel Hill, it just doesn't work. And I think that's the problem with some of these races is, especially for someone that's like you, that can compete and win, you can't exactly stack 100-milers 4 and 5
Yeah.
weeks apart and be
Right.
successful. It was just like Corey Waldron was talking about how he did the FKT for the Pinhoti Trail and then turned around and tried to do the Cocodona 250. And his legs were just like, his body was like, no, man.
No, you're not.
No, not today, because again, if you're going to compete at that high level and grab an FKT on a hard ass trail, because the Pinhoti Trail is no joke, you're not going to be able to roll into a 250-mile race and probably be able to give it what you would want to give it when you're 100% fresh, especially at Corey's level, because Corey's another one
he's great,
man. He's up here, right? So I'm excited for you to go back to Tunnel Hill, because like I think like you said, I think you nailed it. Once you know what you can do, right, which is under 13 hours, now it's like, now that you laid out a stout time there. Now what's next? And then I think you got your niche, and it's all about just bringing it home. And I think it sounds like you have a good plan to do it. I mean, and that's exciting, exciting stuff. And hearing the whole Tunnel Hill thing, how it played out, because we were, me and a bunch of friends were watching the whole thing play out. And once Taggart fell out, we were like, that's crazy, because Zach was out front from the beginning, right?
Yeah.
And we were watching I think there was some sort of, a live feed, because it's Durbin's race, and Durbin has live feeds for his stuff. And so, we had thought that Zach had dropped out of the race.
Yeah, there were some weird spots, I guess.
And somebody had said, one of the people that was on Twitter or something was like, Zach dropped. And we were like, what? That's crazy. Why would he drop this close to the finish? And then it came back, and he's like, he's still in first. He hasn't dropped. And, and so we're watching it all. And, from somebody just watching it from the outside looking in, right?
Yeah.
We're watching it. We're all thinking, he's got this thing locked down, because we had seen that Jacob Moss had a hard time, and not a whole lot of people was mentioning you. A couple of people had mentioned you on social media, and then all of a sudden it blew up. Twitter blew up, and it was like Phil Young just beat Zach Bitter and passed him with like less than a mile. And of course, all of us immediately, me and my friends were like, we're like ultra sign up and Phil Young,
who is that?
Because it's kind of like how Taggart came along, right?
Yeah.
I mean Taggart just showed up, and all of a sudden this guy's like just brilliant, and so like this is really cool. So, but anyway, man, I'm really thankful that you had taken the time to talk to me. I know you're a busy man. You run a business, and you got a lot going on, and family and all that stuff, and taking almost an hour out of your day to sit here and talk to me about running is huge, and I really appreciate it. So thank you so much.
Thanks for reaching out, and I think it's cool that that you devote way more time to this than I did. I just gave you 1 hour, and you're going an hour at a time all over the place, and it's good for our sport. I think it's good for people to just get to hear that, just the human stories behind all this stuff. Like a lot of sport, especially at the high level, it's untouchable. You don't get to talk to Tom Brady.
No, right?
You can talk to Zach Bitter, and that's cool. So appreciate what you're doing, and yeah, for giving me the shot to talk and remember some of this stuff.
Man, it's cool. And I have to tell you, when I started this out, I've not even been doing it a year. When I started it out, I'm local, I'm in Tennessee, and my initial aim was I was just mainly focusing on a lot of local folks.
Yeah.
And I do some interviews in person. I actually like doing the interviews in person. Then we have a beautiful park, and we meet at these pavilions, and we do interviews. And then all of a sudden, I started reaching out to some other folks, and not knowing whether they're going to say yes or no, right? I mean, you never know. I mean,
Yeah.
you don't know. It's just like I shot a message to Corey, like, I noticed he's in Tennessee or,
Yeah.
around here a lot. And I'm like, hey, would you sit down with me? He's like, yeah. And I'm like, holy crap. And then Taggart put on Twitter, the first person that messages me and lets me talk about whatever I want to talk about, I'll do an interview with him. And I was like, what the hell, Taggart, I'll let you talk about, if you want to talk about, running through fields and playing with flowers, we can
Yeah.
do it, and so I got to talk to him. I talked to Corey, and then, Peter Mortimer, who is this, larger than life beast of a runner out
Yeah.
in California, in Arizona, excuse me, in Flagstaff. I mean, I was looking through his accolades, and I just had to stop after a while. I'm like, dude, you just did too much. I mean, you just like,
Showing us up.
I was just like, you've done everything. And so, it's just like so cool to meet guys like you, right? Because who have great stories and have accomplished great things, and being able to share that with different folks who enjoy listening to hearing people's journeys and stories and whatnot. It's very exciting and good stuff. So again, I appreciate it and everything. And I'm definitely going to keep up with you. We'll have to do another one after you win Tunnel Hill again this year. So
Sure. Book
it. Absolutely. All right, guys. So that is it for this week's episode. As always, if you haven't given the channel a like and a subscribe, please do give the video a like. And also, for those who don't know yet, I've gotten so many requests for audio recordings because I've been straight video only. I have ventured into the audio world, and I'm on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, SoundCloud. And right now they're a little rough around the edges, so bear with me. I've not learned how to edit audio, and I am learning that. I'm mainly a video guy, so I'm going to learn how to do it and get out some good audio quality stuff too. So this one will be on audio as well, in case you don't want to watch watch my face. So
or mine.
or Phil's. If you don't want to see our faces, then you can listen to us talk. So that's it. And as always, I will see you on the trail. Thanks, Bill.